Outlet Liquor is the place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Outlet Liquor, official partner of the Buffalo Sabres.
Folks, welcome back. It is Trainwreck tonight, 361. It is Victory Monday. Amari Cooper has a Bills touchdown under his belt, and we're feeling a little bit better than we were exactly 7 days ago, getting ready to take on the New York Jets on Monday Night Football. Speaking of feeling better, looking better, playing better, let's get him in here. Matt Parrino. Matt, Victory Monday, which means the timeline is just a little bit more peaceful today.
It is peaceful unless you're featured on Freezing Cold Takes, which I was last night because I tweeted that Russell Wilson looked absolutely cooked in that first quarter. Shot is the word I think I actually used. Then I went to sleep at halftime, and I never, not that if I fixed it, would it have mattered, but I woke up to that. So, the timeline is the timeline.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's 2 wins then for Matt Parrino. I mean, we're talking about exposure. We're talking about reach. I think Wingnuts & Co. and, much more loves that. But speaking of loving, Bills Mafia obviously loving the result yesterday, 34-10. Very much to me, a Cardinals 2.0.1 type game with the first 20 minutes being a lot of slodge, kind of daring them to beat you, etc. And then they do it a little bit, but you kind of put the clamps down and ultimately in the second half show that you're an elite team.
Yeah, I think a little bit of it probably was the flip from Levis, preparing for him all week, and then having to go and get ready for Mason Rudolph, who had a little bit of success against them last year. This is a Titans offense that still has a lot of talent. I'm actually surprised at how little they've been able to find answers with that trio of wide receivers. They were able to get that touchdown. If not for that Taron Johnson unnecessary roughness call, maybe that ends up being a field goal. It's 6-0 at that point. The Bills maybe take the lead before halftime, and it's a completely different conversation. I tweeted that I felt like in the first half, it felt like they were unprepared to come out and execute, especially on the offensive side of the ball. When you have 3 3-and-outs with Josh Allen as your quarterback, you just start to scratch your head a little bit, like what's going on. I thought Joe Brady did a good job at adjusting, getting a better balance in the run and the pass game, getting Josh Allen a little bit more comfortable into some of his throws. And then on the defensive side of the ball, man, that stop in the beginning of the third quarter just completely changed the game. When they went for it on 4th down, I was up in the press box, sitting next to Ryan Talbot, and I said, there's no way they're actually going to snap this, right? They're just trying to draw them offside. They're going to punt the ball. And lo and behold, they try to, that sneak and give the Bills great field position. They march down and score a touchdown. You mentioned it, Amari Cooper's first as a Bill, and then it was off to the races.
I'm with you on the point, and I think that was a classic case for me. Pardon my microphone. For me, of love the call, love the decision, hate the call. I mean, I don't know why we're trying to plunge up the middle on 4th and 2 after we just got gouged there. But you said, yeah, it was off to the races after that. They just looked like a much better team. It looked like they were taking advantage. Does it worry you? I mean, the slow starts have definitely been something consistent this year outside of the Jets and the Dolphins game. Some very eerie slow starts as we get into spooky season here on Trainwreck Sports. But does that worry you, or is it something to where it is worrisome, but it's equally credited back to that they're making in-game adjustments to the point where they can win a second half 27-0?
There's a level of worry because, you're not going to play the Titans every week. We saw what happened against the Baltimore Ravens when you get down a little bit early and then you're kind of swimming upstream against a really good team that doesn't make any mistakes and doesn't allow you to get back into the game. Now you've adjusted maybe and you're able to defend better or move the ball better, but it's too little too late and you're not able to catch up. So you're going to have those games. I mean, you think about the Chiefs in a couple weeks. The Miami Dolphins here in 2 weeks are going to be playing for their season. At first, I thought, okay, you probably don't bring Tua back to face the Bills, who have knocked him out of 2 games over the last couple of years. But they don't have any choice, right? If he's ready to go, they're going to have to play with their season on the line. They're sitting there at 2-4. They're in a pretty good spot. If you think about where the Jets are at 2-5, obviously a little bit of an easier schedule in New Jersey. Seattle's a tough game on the road, but Indianapolis is not going to be any pushover. But then you get into that gauntlet of a stretch there against really good teams, the Detroit Lions, the Los Angeles Rams, San Francisco 49ers. You figure they're probably going to be healthier, although losing Ayuk for the season, that's a tough look. You figure Christian McCaffrey will be back. But to your point, you want to see them get into into their rhythm offensively earlier in games. And then defensively, like, I'm not worried about them necessarily there unless they come out and get punched in the face and they go down 2 scores early in the game. The offense isn't working. Sean McDermott, Bobby Babbage, they find a way to adjust in game, but you want to start to, just start a little stronger against better competition here over the next month and a half.
This is incredible. Your ability to look at the broad picture and look at the overall scope. The only thing that surpasses its diligence is how much it frustrates me, Matt. Okay, because we're just trying to focus on Victory Monday. The Bills won by 24. The Sabres won on Saturday. But you got to. We'll get to Seattle in a second here. Just kind of wanted to finish up the wrap on the game yesterday, real quick. Where does Amari Cooper after one game? There was a lot of talk, speculation on what he would add right away, etc. Based on what you've seen, they got him in the mix right away, and it looked like he was in the picture right away. Where does he leave? And I call it this weapons arsenal, receivers room. You got to add Kincaid and Knox in there, so I didn't want to call it receivers. Where does that rank the weapons arsenal for a QB, Josh Allen, maybe league-wide? You think, does that get him to the top 15, top 10?
Oh, yeah. I think it definitely gets you to the top 15. You look at what, some of the elite offenses, typically are in the AFC, and you think about the Baltimore Ravens. I'm not blown away by their package of playmakers. I think that, you can make an argument that the Bills have a better collection. Kansas City Chiefs right now, I mean, you could play wide receiver for the Chiefs at this point.
You and I could go out there and we could be like Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs in the early Vikings, putting up 1,000 each. But that system's ridiculous. We'll get to the Chiefs in a little bit, but yeah, it just seems like, and this season has been exaggeration, right? You're 3-0. Josh Allen's an MVP leader. Then 2 weeks later, he's off to his worst QB start since 2019. It's just been back and forth with the exaggerations. Now, after 2 wins again, I think we're kind of feeling good. And I agree. I think maybe 12, maybe top 10 to 12 is a good spot for these weapons. But I think we're going to see as we roll on. And if Brady can kind of, push the right buttons, we might see not trickle down economics, but trickle down opportunities, because obviously Cooper is going to get secondary, attention and much more. I think you look at Kincaid, you look at Shakir, you looked at what was happening yesterday right away. The biggest thing to me was it was a little bit easier on all of those guys. And I think you saw at certain points throughout the game, they were able to kind of manipulate that and take advantage. Real quick, just wrapping up last game, 2 more points. Keon Coleman, running fast, catching balls, doing a little bit of everything. Where do we feel on him now as we're nearing the halfway point of the season?
I think what you just laid out there, there's no bigger benefactor to the arrival of Amari Cooper than Keon Coleman, because it takes the pressure of having to be the guy. Like, you roll out this wide receiver crew, as good as Khalil Shakir is before Cooper gets here, and Coleman ends up being the top wide receiver the teams are scheming to take out of the game, if you will, or at least getting the toughest assignment on the other side. Now you can't do that as much. So when you're going up against teams that are looking and figuring out, all right, where are we going to, disperse our top cornerback, it's going to be to Amari Cooper, and Keon Coleman should be able to take advantage of that. And now it'll come down to Joe Brady being creative with where they line those guys up, the kind of personnel packages that they're using. I thought they mixed that up pretty well yesterday. I think there's only more room to grow as Amari Cooper gets more comfortable with this offense, understands the playbook. But I think that this completely changes the math for me on Keon Coleman's ceiling in his rookie season. Up to this point, it had been peaks and valleys, right? He's had some really good games. He's had some games where he's kind of been invisible, seemed to be frustrated at times. Now you could take a little bit of the pressure off, because Cooper's a guy that he doesn't want any of the spotlight. He doesn't want to be that guy that everybody's talking about, that number 1 wide receiver. Coleman can kind of be the flashier kind of guy. Even Josh Allen alluded to it yesterday. Coleman wants the ball. He wants to go out and make plays. He is that alpha kind of presence. I think bringing in Cooper is that great combination of, all right, veteran presence, a guy that can lead a young guy like Keon Coleman, but also let Coleman be who he is.
Yeah, I think that was well said. So we'll put a dot on that. The win is in the books, obviously. Last thing on yesterday's game, that flyover. I'm not typically a flyover guy. It was the sound for me. It was the sound. It wasn't even the visual.
I kind of rocked a little bit in the press box, and you can't hear it usually super great. It just sounds like not really. It doesn't really knock you back. It moved me. I mean, that thing was close. It was loud.
Oh, that shit clapped yesterday for sure. The Bills are going to look to avoid getting clapped in Seattle. Is this the first Bills in Seattle game since the infamous Dan Carpenter debacle?
I don't think so. I think they had one since then.
Okay, we'll look it up. Obviously, you had the
'Cause I think
game
they
against
weren't they there in
Seattle here.
2017 with Tyrod Taylor. Am I making a mistake there?
No, I would remember. We would have got shellacked that year if we went into Seattle.
Hang on a second. So
Let's
16
pull it up. Okay.
was
While
his
Matt's
last
looking
year.
that up real
Carpenter.
quick, Matt's looking to put on a big show right now. While Matt's putting on that big show, we got to remind you that November 1st and 2nd, the big show brought to you by TSE. We got, look at those names: Jim Kelly, Andre Reed, Thurman Thomas, Keon Coleman, Joe Andreessen, James Cook, and much more. Get your tickets now at TSE Buffalo for the big show. What was the verdict?
Last time they played was 2020 in Buffalo, and then 2016.
Okay, so that was Josh Allen's like best career game at that point. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So point being that the Bills have not been in Seattle in nearly a decade. But with that said, there's no more Legion of Boom. They got Geno Smith, who's like kind of a, right, like a 50-50, like he's nearing that elite tier stats wise, but people still kind of doubt that he is. Am I still on the right perspective there? Do you think the Bills fans should be intimidated by Seattle going into this environment?
No. I think the Bills travel well. I think they've played on the West Coast pretty well the last couple of years. I think I brought up their stats. And if you look since 2020, they're 3-1 on the West Coast, the true West Coast games, with Josh Allen since 2020. So it's a tough game. It's, to your point, they have a good offense. They have a good, tough running game. They have a lot of really good wide receivers. We'll follow the DK Metcalf knee injury storyline throughout the week. If he can't play, that obviously changes the dynamic quite a bit. They have a solid defense. It doesn't blow you away. I think that was more yesterday a bad Atlanta game. Overall, I haven't watched it back yet, but no, it's a tough road game. But I feel like Sean McDermott, this is the kind of game where he gets his guys ready to play in that kind of spot. And for as much as there's some unfamiliarity with the Bills on the Seattle side, Seattle doesn't play the Bills very often. So I think both of those teams have it going, and they've played in big stadiums and like loud stadiums like over the last couple of years with Josh Allen. I don't think you should be too worried about that.
You can say what you want against, the Burrows and the Mahomes of everything, but I think you were saying about McDermott, I think he cuts his teeth on these spots with, semi-elite quarterbacks who are maybe on like the discussion. I'm thinking about facing Lamar Jackson early in his career, what they did to the playoffs to him. I think this is a good opportunity for McDermott to kind of show what he's got with his defense. Obviously, we're expecting to hear from him later today. We'll get more on the ankle from Terrell Bernard. We don't know yet. Are we thinking that's like, I'm already putting that in my brain as like 4 to 8 weeks.
Bernard?
Yeah, I'm worst case scenario in that. I get nervous with him too. Yeah. Like, it's like now with that said, if I hear day to day or even week to week, I think that's a win for Bills fans.
For sure. And I think that the good sign is he came back out on the field with his helmet on after he went into the locker room. I think a lot of people were like, oh, wait, does he know that he's been ruled out of the game already? Like, is he ready to go back in? So I don't know.
Has anybody ever been ruled out and came back in?
I don't know. I think once you're ruled out, you can't come back in.
You're not allowed. Okay.
No.
Okay.
So, but he, he's probably super bummed. He missed a couple games there and was, made it back and rehab the shoulder or the pec muscle. But yeah, that's a huge loss. If he can't play, that obviously changes things a little bit too. This is going to be a really spicy week, a really good matchup to kind of dive into. I like these matchups against teams that the Bills don't play as much, because you get a chance to really dive in and learn a bunch about them.
Yeah, you can only deal with Fireman Ed so many times, honestly. I think we all agree. With that said, big picture here for the Bills before we go to the rest of the NFL. Can this defense win a Super Bowl based on what you've seen? I was looking earlier, 33 points across 7 second halves so far, by the way. Did you know that?
So what does that come out to?
That's less than 5 points. 5 points averaging in the second half. And Baltimore put up 14, by the way. So literally, this team is not allowing points in the second half.
If you ask the question, can the Bills defense get the Bills to a Super Bowl? I would say yes, because Sean McDermott's done that before. His defense got the Carolina Panthers to a Super Bowl. This has been a top defense since he's been in Buffalo. I still think there's elements of that defense and players that maybe people were down on in the preseason that have come out early this season and played really well. Taylor Rapp being one of them. Dwayne Carter's kind of stepping up into a larger role. Rousseau had a big game. I thought Epinesa, this has been his 2-game splash. Like, we get this every year, but can he kind of turn it into like 2 into 4 into 6? That changes the dynamic of the defense. And then they'll get Von Miller back against Miami in 2 weeks. So I think if they stay healthy, if they don't lose any big names, and then you get Milano back in December, and I don't even know what that looks like, because by then Milano will have missed almost 2 full seasons. Like, because he left for the year in the Miami game last year, or the Jacksonville game last year, missed basically the whole season.
First week of October.
Yep, we'll miss all of this season up until when he's able to come back. And then Dorian Williams is going to be pretty entrenched in that role, and he's playing some pretty good football. So do you now turn Milano into that third linebacker and maybe play base a little bit more? But how do you do that? Because then you have to take Taron Johnson off the field. Do you rotation Dorian Williams and Matt Milano? That's going to be a fun conversation for December.
It absolutely is. But speaking of which, I think we can open up to the Super Bowl talk, because the AFC East has fallen off so much, Matt. We're looking at the Bills are just under, in some spots, minus 1,000 to win the AFC East after starting at about plus 180. So they go from about 2-1 to now, if you bet $10, you would win $1. So the odds have definitely refreshed a little bit there. Do you think that basically that Dolphins game in a week and a half or whatever now is the potential breaking point for that? And as far as the rest of the NFL outside of the Chiefs, do you see any like I get Ravens, but they've beaten the Ravens, twice in the last 4 years as well. But do you see anything besides Chiefs and Ravens that stand a threat to the Bills at the present moment?
If I'm looking down 2 months from now, I think the Chargers could turn into a bit of a buzzsaw. I think they're a really good defensive team. I think they're very well coached. Jim Harbaugh does a good job. Justin Herbert's that wild card. With that offense, can they get healthy? I know that they don't have a ton of weapons. They've been building that offensive line, which I think is a little bit better. And I think that they're a little bit live. If they can get, over the next 2 months, they're going to turn into the team that they're going to be. And I don't think that's the version that we're seeing now, which I think has been pretty successful. I mean, it hasn't blown anybody away, and there's a reason nobody's really talking about them. But if I was to pick like a dark horse team, they would be it. And man, I mean, Pittsburgh looked really dominant last night. So they're going to be a team that they play really well defensively. I know the Bills have played well against them in the past. They played well against Russell Wilson. They played well, I think, against Justin Fields in that super cold game that one year. So I still think it's the Ravens, though. Even I kind of throw out, so far through 7 games, this feels like a different Ravens team. Now, I'm reserving the right to change my mind, because I'm not
reserving, huh?
Yeah, we're reserving. I'm not bullish on Derrick Henry staying healthy throughout this entire season. The way that they're using him, the style of offense that they run. And if they lose him at any point for any stretch of time, they become a different team, because it's their identity now. Like, the way that teams have to try to deal with him and Lamar as runners is challenging. And then you got the 3 tight ends. So I'm putting the Ravens and the Chiefs in that top tier together. And then I kind of have the Chargers in that second tier with the Steelers.
I know it's too early, but as long as the Super Bowl window is open, we can always look at the playoff picture. Pretty shockingly, right now, the Bills would be hosting the Ravens. Does this not factor in the tiebreaker? Well, they have one less game. Okay, 4-2. Okay, so that makes a little bit of sense, but that's a little bit shocking. If the Bills were to host the Ravens next week in a playoff game, what do you think the spread would be?
I'd
say Bills -3. Home field advantage.
Yeah. I think -3. I don't think maybe -4. Like, maybe the Bills would get a point for being at home. And I think that you take that first meeting and you chalk up a lot of that to the Ravens being at home. So I think that that would shift the favoritism back over to the Bills, but slightly. I think it's going to be a close game wherever they play in the playoffs.
We are wrapping it up here.
I forgot about Houston. I forgot about Houston. They're kind of a funny team.
They are funny.
I don't.
Stroud's elite. He had
Eh,
90 yards this week though, and he lost.
I'm not in the CJ Stroud as elite camp yet, but and is that a joke you're making, saying that you're not in that camp either?
Well, I like, I love rushing to like takes and everything. Of course, we don't know if CJ Stroud's elite. He's played for like not even a season and a half.
Right. That's the thing. He's been really, really good.
Good.
But I don't know if that's going to be sustainable. And obviously, they're very predicated on Nico Collins, that offense, that passing game, as we saw this past week. And they haven't played a lot of good teams. So
not even sounding crazy, Deshaun Watson was a NFL historical world beater for the first 2 to 3 years in a Texans uniform, wasn't he? Like, what was he on pace to be like an all-time like second? Again, it's like you said, you need much bigger sample size to tell, but that's what makes them a dark horse. I agree with the take for sure, because Houston Texans at home in the playoffs, that would be something dangerous for certain. Rest of the weekend recap though. Did you see Texas Georgia with the fans and the pass interference call?
No.
Okay, so Texas is down. They get a pass interference call on a pick six, essentially, or like a interception and return inside the 10.
Okay.
They call pass interference. Fans began to immediately litter the field with beers, everything like that. You got the Texas coach telling them not to do this. The refs gather. They overturn the pass interference call.
What do you think about
that? Do we need more fan riots at stadiums if we need a call? I mean, I see Bills fans yelling about calls. Maybe we need to, be a little bit more active. I'm not advocating for it. I would never say to do anything that could put you in personal harm. It could put any of the Bills in personal harm. But you see a cause and effect here where fans throw stuff on the field and then we get a different call. I mean, are we encouraging craziness here?
A little bit. I don't like the precedent that's setting. And maybe that's why I don't watch college football, because just nonsense is happening. The amateur level.
Oh, nonsense is happening. Well, our UB did lose 48-41. Did you catch that nonsense?
Jonah Bronstein was telling me about the result yesterday.
It was an absurd game. It was absolutely crazy. A great homecoming game, very entertaining. But now see, I don't want to show any of the copyright. I'm just trying to pull it up here. Let's see. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to blow up. But yeah, craziness of the fans. And aren't these your Yankees too? World Series?
Let's go.
Start spreading the news. Let's go. That's big. You get so used to being the bully, and yeah, the Yankees are a top 5 percent team ever, but you kind of, you forget how good it feels to make it this far. Like, especially when you have the Bills, similar situation, top 5, odds every year. To make it to the final 2 is a hell of a feeling. These Dodgers, though, whoosh, this is going to be a laser light show in this series. I think every over-under might just have to be like 9 or 10.
Yeah, I don't feel very confident in this series, to be honest with you. Shohei's an absolute unit in every way, shape, and form. Is he going to pitch in this series, you think?
No, he's not going to pitch. But the fucked up thing is that literally Tommy Edman for the Dodgers is literally was like a 9-hitter all year, and then he becomes the NLCS MVP hitting 500. So it's just when you think the Dodgers can't get any richer, they got their former 9-hitter now batting cleanup behind Shohei and Mookie Betts, which is insane.
Right. It's going to test it. I mean, the Yankees pitching, it's a wild ride. Just follow Sal Mayorana on social media. Go back through the tweets. It is a wild ride.
Well, if you follow Sal Mayorana, the Yankees are 0-162, and they're on the verge of closing up. Basically,
he will not
bankruptcy.
They will hoist the trophy, and he will still.
He'll be pissed. He's gonna be pissed
that they did wrong.
Amateur hoist by Giancarlo didn't raise the trophy high enough. Show some pride, loser.
Stanton, are we talking about maybe one of the best of all time?
Yes, dude. Yes, and that's why. You do it, and I know it's tough. It's a lot easier said now than all the other months. That's why you just put up with the demoralizing May double plays and everything, because this is the boom about. If he's healthy in this spot, this is when the playoffs is absolutely when the premier hitters, your Shoheis, your everything come to play. And Giancarlo is a premier hitter when he's healthy.
Except for the most part, Aaron
Judge. Home run hitting wise. I'm not talking about average. I'm talking about prolific home run hitter. When someone's coming in with a 95 mile per hour plus fastball, Giancarlo is one of the best at putting it out.
Judge had the huge homer the other night, so obviously that was a big moment for him.
Oh, dude, against Class A, that was awesome.
But they need him.
Unbeatable.
They need him to be August Judge in this series, I think, for them to beat the Dodgers. Like, he's got to outplay. I'll go out on this limb. Judge has to outplay Ohtani for the Yankees to beat the Dodgers, I think, in my opinion.
See, I think my take is that you're gonna get like Judge and Ohtani take each other out. You got Betts and Soto are gonna take each other out. The pitching's very close. This sounds psycho, but I've been saying it almost all year. Austin Wells is gonna decide whether the Yankees can win a World Series. If he can be an X factor, because he's batting behind all these big bats, Parrino. He's batting behind
trouble,
them.
though.
So
That's trouble. I don't trust him. He had a nice hit the other day, but again, don't trust him.
I only trust him as far as I can throw him, but you're going to end up getting Soto, Judge, Stanton pitched around basically this entire series. So you're going to need your Glabers, you're going to need your Wells, and I hate to say it, but even your Verdugos to chip in.
That's fine with Verdugo. Here's what I need the Yankees to do. Torres has been really good in the playoffs defensively. Volpe has to be defensively a stud. He's got to summon his inner Derek Jeter, because if there's any of this air BS against this team, you're shot. And so I'm looking at Volpe, man. He's got to control that infield, and Jazz has got to chill a little bit, man. I know he's got that range and everything, but chill, man. You're coming over half the time. It's not even your play. Learn the rules, all right? Let Volpe make a play, and Volpe, when they're there, make the play.
Jazz is like that kid in Bad News Bears from the center field when he runs all the way over to right field to catch the fly ball. That's definitely Jazz. Okay, but no overrated for the Yankees. Speaking of, let's get into it. It is spooky season as we wind down Trainwreck tonight, 361 with our friend here, Matt Parrino. Thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, as always, Matt, but let's get into the serious talk. Halloween, I will say I got a little late this year. I thought that, 10 days before is a little late to get into it. We got my dog's Halloween costume. He's going to be a bumblebee. We're very excited in this house. We're going to embrace that bumblebee. With that said, I did watch my first Halloween movie to kick it off. It was one I'd never seen before, Halloween Town. Have you indulged?
Yeah, I've seen that. I saw it when I was a kid, though, so I'd have to probably rewatch to really give you.
I thought it was okay. This was portrayed to me as a classic.
This isn't the era that you were supposed to really watch it in.
I thought it was okay. I get it. And you know what? There's some classic moments in there. Obviously, the defeat of Calabar is iconic. I totally get it. But you got a favorite Halloween movie that you watch around this time of year? A favorite spooky, scary movie? Scary and Halloween are kind of synonymous, right? Like, it doesn't need to be Halloween themed to fit in.
Something weird happened to me. Like 15 years ago, I really liked horror movies, and now I just don't. Like, if they come on, I just want to change the channel. I don't want to experience it. Maybe it's because I'm an adult and I'm a father. I just don't like any of it. It's just nonsense.
Well, what was your peak 15 years ago?
Dude, I loved Halloween. I love the series. I love Michael Myers series. Like, I would rock that. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure we watched one of the Halloween movies, me and my wife, on our first date. So, like, I was definitely heavily into it. I liked it a lot. You know what was a movie that really messed me up? The original Strangers movies. Like,
oh yeah,
remember that one? Dude, that was messed up. That might have been my swan song for horror movies. But anyway, my big Halloween favorite. The kids love it too. They just came out with a sequel last year. Hocus Pocus. Can't go wrong. Get the witches on. They get the Sanderson sisters up there on the screen. You're feeling good. You got the Halloween pumpkin spice candles lit. You got the the candy flowing. It gets you in the mood.
Speaking of which, what are you poaching out of the kids' bags when they get home? What's the dad tax?
I'm lame, dude. I love a good Snickers, but here's the thing. I like Baby Ruths, dude. Like, I'm scoundrel.
That's lamer than liking Snickers.
I know people judge me on this. I'm a big Baby Ruth guy. I think it's probably like when I was a kid, I loved The Sandlot, so like big baseball guy. So I thought it was Babe Ruth. Like, I thought it was Babe Ruth. I thought it was Babe Ruth's like chocolate bar. So I was like, let's go. So
that's actually, you know what? There were I would say live odds you were like 98.2% done there. But then you told the most ridiculous story of all time about how you thought that the Baby Ruth candy bar was associated with Baby Ruth. And I'm going to let you off the hook. We're going to let you off the hook, Andre.
I appreciate that. But I actually like eat them for taste, though, now at 42.
Well, because your brain is convinced you they were good, though. It's like anything, like, when you were a kid. Like, you go experience it again. Even if it looks like shittier and it's lost its flair, it still, like, feels you with, like, that chemical effect, for sure. And there's nothing.
Like? What are you picking?
Oh, well, don't. First off, you laid it out perfectly. A Snickers out of the fridge. You throw like, 3 or 4 of the minis in the drawer. Yeah, and the good thing about the drawer is you never know like how many are left. So like there's always like hope in the drawer. It's a great place to establish. Now I will say though, don't mess me with that Butterfinger though either. I know it. I know it can get a little
great for the teeth.
Well, see, I like the leftovers. I think that's an aspect of the Butterfinger is that you get kind of the remnant and then you get a little leftover.
No, yeah, that's a serious
No.
flossing, immediate flossing situation. Got to get the water.
Well,
flosser
we
out.
can tell
It's
you're a
too
big
much
teeth
work.
guy. I'm not bad, but you're shining over there. I'm not bad, but you're shining over there.
I've become a big teeth guy in my later years.
Well, you got to. I mean, you only got so many. So with that said, wrapping up the Halloween talk, I got to throw this out there because it's my favorite. The Saw movies. Thoughts?
Ooh, haven't watched those in a while, and that's a different form of horror. That's just like more shock. And like gruesome.
Well, but nothing better than when the Saw twist music comes on, though. That's all.
I might throw that back into the mix.
Okay. Well, maybe
I'll get back to you on that.
Maybe we'll watch some film over the next week. We'll see if we can fit it in. But huge shout out to Matt Parrino here. Huge shout out to your partner in crime, Ryan Taba, who, do you know that he's become like a troll in the wrestling chat that we're all in? He doesn't exist anymore. He doesn't exist anymore. There's no Ryan Taylor.
Oh, I got some wrestling takes. You want some wrestling takes?
Yeah. Oh, fire him up. But real quick, Ryan is just troll bot. That's all he is in the chat. He's just troll bot. That's all he exists to do. He doesn't, and then I watch him on Facebook and he goes out and he pretends to be this diligent Bills reporter who wants everyone to have like, oh, look at my quirky sense of humor and everything. No, you're troll bot. Don't try and convince people that you're not troll bot. What are you unleashing right now?
Give me the example.
Well, first off, he loves to troll AEW for like viewership ratings. So anytime like it comes up as a topic, like all of a sudden, you know how Mario comes out of like the tube at the beginning of the level? That's like Trollbot coming up when he sees an AEW take. Like,
are you an AEW stan?
I was. They've fallen off a little bit for sure, and it has also coincided with WWE being amazing, The Rock coming back to WWE. So, like, as much as I love AEW, and I always do love AEW, but I mean, WWE is my original love. WWE is my Topanga Lawrence. It's my, Kelly Kapowski.
Throwback. Kelly Kapowski. That you hit there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But with that said, hit with your wrestling takes. What do you got?
All right. So here's what I like the best. I was listening. I get a lot of wrestling content in the TikTok algorithm, and Mark Henry, I think, has it pegged for what should happen. The Rock comes back.
Yes.
They do something. Maybe it's Survivor Series or something, and then he goes behind the back of Solo and tells Fatu and the Tonga boys that I am the Ulafala wearer, and you join me. You hit Solo out of there. He's got to go back with Roman, and now it's the two factions. And I always thought it was a little funny when you had to involve Sami Zayn. Like, that was a great angle. I really enjoyed that. Like, again, I don't watch the shows. I watch it all.
You have to understand that was a top 3 angle of the last 5 years.
It 100%
It wasn't perfect.
You'd ruin it by bringing it back now. It's done. It's
Matt. But what's going to happen is that I think you're still going to have Solo on the other side, but they're going to be one man short on Roman's team. There's going to be no other Uso, no other brother or cousin coming, and there's only going to be one person who can arrive. And we already said that literally Sammy announcing like him coming out is going to end a show, like to announce that he's the guy because it's that big of a deal. But so you're very close. You're very close
with The Rock.
The 5th with The Rock, you got Solo Sikoa.
So Solo's staying there.
Yes. So here's what you're gonna do. Here's what you're gonna make. You're so close. And that's the thing with so many of your takes, so close, but you're not all the way there. We got Survivor Series. They're gonna have a 5th man that's not announced. It's gonna be The Rock. Rock's gonna come out. It's gonna be exactly like you said, but Solo Sikoa is gonna get cucked and stay on the same side.
He's just gonna have to fall.
The Rock is gonna say that he was the tribal chief the whole time.
So who's Reigns' team? Does he have to have Cody Rhodes on his team?
Reigns might get Cody Rhodes.
No, I don't want that. Here's another thing. Here's a shot to all you wrestling boys. Okay. We're all on this Cody Rhodes train for years and years.
Not years and years.
Finish your story. Now, in true wrestling fan fashion, The guy finishes his story, and we're not even, 6 months away from WrestleMania? They've all turned on him. They all want him to get out of the way. And I also don't want him in the Bloodline storyline because he doesn't belong there. So there you go. There's my hot take. Get Rhodes out of the Bloodline storyline. They don't need him. He needs to build his own arc. Do it yourself. Find a dancing partner. You're not welcome here. I'm out on that.
You have plausible deniability saying what you just did, but then you also have to acknowledge that 2 years ago at WrestleMania, Solo Sikoa was like interfering to like win Roman Reigns the title against Cody Rhodes. So to say Cody Rhodes isn't in the Bloodline storyline is a little bit off. Is a little bit out there, but that's okay because he's on everything else. We've led some great Bills takes, and we are looking forward to closing up. With that said, costumes, Halloween. What you got one picked? What are the kids being? What are the fam doing?
I'm being Loki.
Ooh.
Lucas is being Thor. My daughter is being Taylor Swift, and then Caitlin, we're working on it. She might be being Travis Kelce. So we'll see how that goes.
Wow, that's actually I might have to come over and join. I could just be Mobius.
Ooh, well, that's a little bit too scary for the kids. So
that would be a little scary. I don't need a costume to be scary, though. You don't need to be scared. Make sure you're checking everything out on Trainwreck tonight. Make sure you're following along with, obviously, Matt Parrino, Upstate New York, Syracuse.com, everything they got going on over at the Shout Buffalo podcast, because this season is halfway there. We are ramping up. We are not stopping. And you know that this train never stops. Go have a good day now.